What is up, everybody? My name is Brandon, and I'm coming back at you again with another video here. This is going to be the first of my sort of more long form, I guess, podcast style. It's not going to be like, I'm not going to call it a podcast or anything, but more just kind of long form, unedited, just kind of sharing my thoughts style of video. So I have on this screen over here, I have sort of a script, not a script, but just some talking points I want to reference. But obviously I don't want to talk too long before this video, but if it is a little rough around the edges, this is sort of the first time I'm attempting something like this. So without further ado, let's get into this video. So this topic of should you go to music school is something that I've really wanted to talk about and sort of share my thoughts on for a long time. And I knew it was going to be the first of this style of video that I wanted to do. But I sort of was getting in my own head a little bit about making sure it was perfect, or really getting across all the thoughts that I wanted. But I think it's better that I just sort of get it out there and do it, because this is something that's very important to me that I sort of share this. So ultimately, obviously, I don't think that I can't make the decision of whether or not you should go to music school. I don't think you should let any random person or anybody in your family or the less pressure that there is from other people, the better that this part of your life will go, I feel. And I'm not saying that I was pressured necessarily by anybody in my family or anything to go to music school or anything like that. Actually, a lot of people have it the opposite, where maybe they do want to study arts or pursue their passions in that way, but they've got family that they're saying, no, you have to study science or math or some sort of engineering type fields. And so that can be also another difficult thing on this. So I'll kind of keep that in mind as well, if maybe if there are some people who aren't doing studying music but are considering it, whether you're considering transferring from another major or if you are undecided on your major and just kind of knocking out general classes, whatever. Hopefully this will kind of help. So this will kind of just be based on some of my experiences, some things if nothing else, maybe I'll impart some advice upon you that will be helpful. And I'm going to get into, I have three big things that I sort of like bullet points that are like, if you aren't this or you can't do this or whatever, then you probably should hold off on doing anything related to music, because there are some big sort of personality traits that I think that it would be really useful for you to know about, that if you aren't this type of person or you can't do these types of things, that maybe you should consider not going into music. But on top of those things, I will say as well, I have one more bolded thing in boldened, whatever, point, that the size of the school that you're looking at is going to be a big factor as well. The school that I went to, was it was definitely a smaller program. It's not as bad as some of the, in terms of size, it's not as small as some of the people I've met while kind of out in the world. So I'll talk a little bit about sort of how the size of the school has affected my experience, but just know that that's something that is going to come into play as well and can either work for your benefit or your detriment. But I'll kind of give you sort of the lens or maybe the context of coming from a smaller school. So while I was studying, I was one of, I think we had four other, or four total percussion majors while I was going through music school. So it was basically me, one guy older than me, one guy younger than me, and one girl younger than him is basically kind of the sort of where it was. And like when I was a freshman, maybe there were a couple people older than me who were studying, and there were even some master's students when I first started. But from the most of like when things really started kicking up and I started really getting involved, it was kind of that. And I went to music school for 5 years. So, about this third year, like junior year sort of is when things really started picking up. And so we had, one person younger than him, and then one person older than me. And that's sort of the main personnel. And they were obviously, they were all really good people. And a really great bunch of friends to work with. But yeah, I think some of the issues that I had with music school and my experience there really were sort of exacerbated by the size of the school. So let's get into that now. So I have, should you go to music school? Not if. If you're not sure that you want to be there, I would say do something else first. Either do a different degree or do just kind of general studies first. And dip your toes in the water. See if you like the music program at the school where you are. Or if you are taking some time off before starting college, which I think anybody who is considering doing art should really consider doing that to see if you actually like doing it, because there's a huge difference between sort of the more isolated on your own work and figuring out if you are sort of the self-motivated type to continue doing it when it's not just in high school, because in high school you have time set aside in your day. Your day is super ridiculously rigidly scheduled, so you're gonna do art, you're gonna do your music, whatever you want to do, but when you kind of get into music school, it's not like that. You maybe will have like 3, depending on ensembles and stuff, we'll just say like 3 hours a day where you're doing that, and then the rest of your day might just be up to you. You have to choose. Do you want to go practice? Do you want to do score study? Do you want to be listening to the music that you're performing? Do all this other stuff? So if you take a year off of school, so after high school or a couple years, and you decide, or you're kind of looking at your life and saying like, wow, I really kind of fell off with music. I'm really not enjoying doing that. I'm not making time to do that. That can be a really good indication of whether or not this is something that you should consider doing. And what's nice is if you're already doing like general studies, or if you're doing some sort of a different degree that maybe you could transfer, or after like a year, if you're already in like marching band or pep band or wind ensembles, orchestra, anything like that, you kind of you start to meet the people who you would be working with, and that can be a big factor as well, that can really kind of help ease that transition. So if you're not sure you want to go to music school, then maybe consider, you see where I'm going with this, right? I'm not going to say don't go. In my script, it's a little more rigid than that, just to kind of help my brain. But okay, let's see. If you don't have a plan post graduation, oh my God, this is a huge thing that especially the more like I don't want to say like hippie, but if you're like me, I didn't really care what I was going to do after graduation, as long as I was doing something in music, right? All I knew is that I didn't want to teach I didn't want to be a band director or a choral director or anything like that. I wanted to do something in music and not be sort of like, I guess, the head honcho type person, because really all that interested me was doing percussion. And another video topic I want to talk about is sort of I'm a little late on it now, but the idea came to me was basically to do like the first year musician review and to be like, okay, this is what it looks like when you don't have a plan. Here's what it looks like. It looks like driving for like DoorDash and Uber Eats and stuff, because that's all I did my first year after music school. And I practiced and I looked for opportunities. And yeah, I know COVID, but that is, if you don't have, I don't think that, despite COVID, I don't think that going into the workforce without sort of a plan is going to do any favors to anybody, because you'll find very quickly that as much as is coming through college, because I didn't really care about making a lot of money. I don't have like a super high need or a threshold of like money that I need to be making, because I don't really spend a lot of money. I mean, I have like knickknacks and like, when I need to buy computer or do replacement of electronics and things like that. But otherwise, I don't really have many hobbies that require me to spend a whole lot of money. So I'm pretty comfortable living at a very low threshold within my means. I don't know if I'm saying that well, but I think you kind of see what I'm saying probably. So despite that, there's still a lot of money that needs to be made in order to just live, especially when you're coming from a small, so like my wife and I, when we were in college, our rent was, just for example, it was like $600 for a house, for a whole house. And then now we come out to here where we are in the new city that we live in. And it jumped up to almost $900 a month, and it's a smaller place, and it's not a full house, and it's, more, just you can see it's just generally more expensive. Utilities are more expensive, and that's just rent. That's not including utilities or anything. When we went to go add a second car, because we couldn't afford to get a new car, we couldn't afford or not that we couldn't afford it, but we couldn't get approved basically for a loan to get a car. Oh my God, we were trying to survive, and we were literally both just working East Street, because we were both like, we'll just do the professional musician thing. It'll be fine, dude. It is not going to be fine. You need to absolutely have a plan post-graduation to figure out what you're going to do to make some money for yourself. And I'm not saying a lot of money. I think I can't remember off the top of my head. It's not like a pride thing or anything, but I think last year I made. Actually, I don't even want to guess, because it's going to be way off. But you can see that if we're splitting utilities and stuff, we'll just call it like I'm paying like $600 a month, okay? And then food, we pay like together we pay like $80 in groceries. So 40 a week times 4 is 160 plus 600 plus gas money plus, just little things like if you don't want to live like, like a stoic or like a monk or like an ascetic type lifestyle where you're literally not spending any money at all on anything you don't need, like it gets hard really fast, especially when you don't have a plan. So I'd absolutely advise that you have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, and it's fine if plans change, I mean, I get that. I did have an idea, I knew that I wanted to teach private lessons. I wanted to get in with a school somewhere and work as a specialist, like a percussion specialist, which I'm doing. But my plan definitely didn't include working Eat Street for, like 20 hours a week. And then my wife working Eat Street for the other 20 hours a week, because we share a car. That is not at all what it looked like. And it's just something that I hadn't really considered before going into this. So, and then the last thing, actually, tell you what, let me take a sip of my cream soda here. My mouth is getting a little dry. The last type of person who probably shouldn't or should reconsider whatever, doing any sort of music degree, studying music, going into professional music, I would say, is if you can't set personal and professional boundaries. Okay, so if you are, what this looked like for me is that I was a super yes man, right? And this is kind of the thing with coming from a smaller school. I'd imagine, obviously, this probably exists at any size school. I can't just say that, oh, it's just that I went to a small school. If I would have been to a big school, I would have been okay. I don't think so, but I do think with my personality type, it made it harder for me because I've never been much of just kind of like a fly under the radar type of person. I've always been a people pleaser and a yes man, and sort of just trying to get, I guess, really just attention and recognition for what not. Yeah, well, okay, it doesn't matter. If you are that type of person, though, if you've noticed that in school, you kind of, your thing is that, like, yes, I get good grades, and I am the best person ever, and I do everything that's asked of me, and I do really good in school, and I'm awesome, really well in school. Then just know that going into this type of lifestyle, this profession, that if you sort of recognize that, then really be on the lookout for when it starts to get to be too much. Because I'm gonna, in a second, I'm gonna go over my list of like titles and jobs and accomplishments and stuff. What ended up happening for me is that I took on way more responsibility than I should have, that I needed to, but I just didn't say no to anything. And I ended up in these situations where, oh, well, Brandon's done it in the past, he'll just do it again now, which really led me to build a lot of resentment toward, initially it was for the people who I felt were pressuring me into doing these things. Now I realize, well, before I realized kind of what happened, then it turned into resentment to myself for not being able to say no. But I realized that's just a personality trait, and that you truly cannot make everybody happy all the time. And the longer you cling to trying to do that, the worse off you're going to be, and you're just going to end up becoming miserable and resenting literally everything. Ask me how I know. So those are sort of the three. Don't reconsider if you are this type of person. If you aren't sure that you want to go, if you don't have a plan, and if you can't set personal and professional boundaries. Looking back, I think that so I definitely wanted to go. I did not have a plan, and I really could not set any sort of boundaries whatsoever. I don't think I said no. So sort of what, well, I guess it relates to what's going on now, or where we are within this conversation. So my last year, second half of the last year, I just had enough, man. I was like severely burnt out. I was really not living a healthy lifestyle. I was, choosing to cope with everything, the stresses, everything, in very unhealthy ways. I didn't feel like I had an outlet. I was starting to isolate myself. I felt like I didn't have any friends. And so I started to make the decision to start pulling out of, like my activities. And so what I did is I just quit everything cold turkey. I was like, I just want to finish up my last year and just get the hell out of here. Because, and I think rightfully so, you can only do this kind of stuff. Even if you do have a healthy balance, I think that after 4 or 5 years of pretty much anything, I'm the kind of type of person to kind of keep rolling with stuff. I can't, for like very, very long periods of time, I need to just kind of keep things fresh. So I was at my threshold. But what ended up happening is that since I never said no to anybody for anything, or, as often as I could, is that I basically had a falling out with every single person, all of my directors, all of my teachers, all of my professors. And I have not, I haven't really seen or heard of any of them. I had one, it really hurts, but I had one professor basically, since graduating, just text me like a couple months ago to see if I was dead or not. And that's sort of where I am with all my professors and everything. And I don't think, they're obviously, maybe I should have given more of a heads up rather than just being, in the last year being like, all right, I'm done. But at the same time, I think, I don't know that it really matters if I made it clear or not. The point is that it should have been a more professional setting. I should have handled myself more professionally and either just, committed to just finishing things up. But, and to kind of, I guess, give myself some wiggle room as well. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean? I think that it should have been better. It really only felt like I had like two people on my side when I made the decision to do that. One who basically was cool. I mean, that the one director who was just like, okay, cool, yeah. I mean, that's fine. So you're gonna lose your scholarship for this this year or whatever, but that's fine, okay. And then we just kind of there's no reason to necessarily continue any sort of discourse or correspondence, and we were never particularly close. It wasn't anything, nothing personal. It's just, it's just business. And then the other person was my second percussion instructor. So he started my very last year, and he was, I mean, literally just a godsend. And I'm gonna like get emotional, but he was super like on my side, and it's weird too because he didn't really do anything that was necessarily like that I wouldn't expect or that you wouldn't expect of someone, just in a personal or not, professional setting. You would just expect this, but it just seemed like, he was just very, very understanding and just made, in no uncertain terms, made it very clear that he was on my side and he would vouch for me and kind of go to bat for me. Knowing that I was going to kind of get some backlash from the directors for wanting to step back from those things and those responsibilities. Okay, so that sucks. That it's even worse that that's sort of where things had to leave off for me. And then going ahead, I had to really scrounge up people when I needed references. Because the people I asked to do it wouldn't do it. I think sort of because of where things left off that last year. And I even had people ask me like, if I was okay, and that, in leaving that last year, it kind of just seemed like a switch. To me, it was a slow burn. It was like, okay, I'm getting mad. Oh, I'm getting pissed now, man. I'm about to blow up. And so, to me, it didn't seem like a big transition, but I guess to everyone else looking, maybe it did. So that's sort of another thing. This is really all to go to the point that you need to be able to set personal and professional boundaries, and if you can't do that, then to either work on yourself or just understand that you're probably not going to make it in this field. Okay. Let's see. I've got a little paragraph here. Maybe I'll just read this and see what this says. Oh, some positive things. So I think I could just read this word for word. For me, going to college for music really instilled a thoroughness and a method of analysis, yes, in my daily life that I don't think any other field could have given me. A lot of this was also based on the many hats I wore, which I'll discuss now. I think we already did. Afterward, I'll get into blah, 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 the accomplishments. Okay. So yeah, the thoroughness. Oh my God, dude. I am like the best, most thorough planner of anything now. It's kind of like you hear people talk about, if you go into the military or whatever, that, it's going to improve, or it's going to structure and really give you the tools to tackle a lot of other fields. And I think, obviously, I'm not even going to go there with comparing music school to military. That's all I'm saying. But it's sort of the same idea that I think that doing this has really helped my ability to plan and to oversee and kind of get the big picture on things, which is sort of a skill that you really rarely get the opportunity with a lot of majors. I don't think you really get the opportunity to sort of be in charge of other people, and which I was for a lot of my time in music school. So in my time there, so I went to school for 5 years. I was the drumline section leader for 2 years, the drumline coordinator and section leader for 2 years. So 4 years of drumline, leadership. I was the wind ensemble section leader for 4 years, percussion ensemble member for 5 years, jazz one. So I played drum set and vibraphone for 4 years, and then the big killer is I was the equipment manager for 4 years. Which there's more. I wrote also. Oh yeah, so I was also just composers. So I also wrote for our student composition recitals for 3 years as well, but that's not a big deal. And I need to go get my my little box here. I'll probably do that here in just a second and edit it out. But I kept basically at the advice of my first percussion instructor to keep every single program of every single concert that I was involved in to just for ideas for music and everything. And I have this huge box, large size box, maybe not huge, of every single concert that I played in, every single time that I performed. And you really start to see that in doing all of this, it really starts to take away the time where you should just be practicing and improving your craft and getting better at playing music. And that's another one of the things that I kind of am not super stoked on looking back at my time. But yeah, the equipment manager thing, I'm not going to go into great detail about what that was. But basically it's, I had to set up and tear down for every single rehearsal and move all equipment for all performances. And I was the only person who did that job, minus when we had other percussionists basically helping out. But I had to be there and oversee all that. Oh my God, do not do that. If you are at a school where that's a job, don't do it. Especially not for $8 an hour. Okay. Let's see. I'm a big believer in balance. Just the way that I was going about things was definitely not healthy. And it really just ended up making things a lot harder on myself than what it needed to be. So, I mean, that's basically, you get the idea. I bit off more than I can chew, so don't do that yourself. As for what actually, sort of like a normal music school, just for general people, what that would look like is basically your day. During the morning, usually you might have some classes. The big thing that really caught me off guard is just how much free time I had when I first got to school. Literally, you can go if you're taking 13 or 14 credit hours, which most people do, what that might look like is maybe 4 classes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then you have Tuesday, Thursday off entirely. Obviously, for doing music stuff, you're going to have a lot more going on, and you have stuff going on in all the evenings and stuff. But I wasn't super involved my very first year. I kind of just did, the bare minimum of what was expected of me. But man, you have so much time, and what you sort of will get to do then is really just start basically just practicing. You kind of hear there's kind of a meme of music students practicing, blah, blah. But really you do kind of get pushed to your ability to listen critically and basically just make improvements. It kind of, I don't know how to say it in a way that really relays how long it takes to kind of start honing the skill, but basically your ability to listen to what you're playing and make improvements upon it, right? So if you're not into playing basically, kind of the same piece of music, the same section, right? So from rehearsal letters C to D, or playing just one line of music, or literally just playing one measure over and over and over again and trying to perfect it, then and who knows? I mean, that was something that actually I really did enjoy doing while I was doing music. Just kind of that process of going in and learning and getting the music and just really perfecting every single note that I was playing was a lot of fun for me. So that's definitely part of the process. So hang on, my wife just got home, so I'll cut and then come back to this. Love you, bye. I found my box of all my programs. So I'm in every single one of these programs somewhere. And if you think, you've got like one of these, or, however many of these divided by how many weeks, it literally gets to the point where there's a concert or something going on every single week. So that's kind of what the point that I was trying to make before. Not super important, but there is that. I just happened to remember that. And I wanted to kind of show off my box. Anyway, yes. So that process of sort of like perfecting the music that you're playing, whether it's solo music or ensemble music, right, is a huge part of what you'll be doing in practicing your instrument, or if you're a vocalist, doing things like that. Obviously for vocalists that process looks a little different, but just really familiarizing yourself with your music and perfecting your craft, is really what you should be doing while you're at music school. Let's see, concerts. Yeah, obviously concerts are a huge part of your time as well. I really enjoyed performing. I thought that it was a lot of fun. I do know though that a lot of people also deal with all sorts of like performance anxieties. So whether if you are anxious about playing solo or in a very small ensemble, understand that that's also going to be something that you'll have to deal with, because you can't really get through a music degree without playing solo at some points. For a lot of people, for most programs, you'll have basically like a senior recital, and you can, depending on what your program allows, you can probably do some of it in like a small group setting. But there will ultimately be some things you have to play as a solo, and it can be very daunting, just from what I've seen with people dealing with performance anxieties and things like that. So just understand that may be something as well. But if you enjoy having everybody watching you while you're doing something you love, that can also be a really good experience as well, because it is very rewarding to end a concert and end it well, and to say that you gave it your all, and to really look at the past few months of hard work on this music, or in some cases years, depending on how long you've gone from the first time you learn a piece from when you actually perform it. And then the last big thing is just the social aspect of music school, which is what I really loved about the first couple years while I was there. Is you can make a lot of friends and make a lot of good just kind of connections and relationships and things that way. Not like work connections, professional connections, but just connections as far as those types of relationships are concerned. And in that way, I think that everybody who has played in some sort of music should continue doing music in some capacity in college, whether it is playing with just marching band, or with your pep band or basketball band, or in wind ensemble, orchestra, something. Because that is a really awesome way to meet new people, make new friends, and really help you ease into the first part of college, where it can feel very scary if you're not used to kind of being on your own in that capacity. So to sort of sum things up and wrap this up, I think this whole sort of talk here is kind of amounted to basically a cautionary tale of what not to do at a stoplight. But really, studying music can be a very fulfilling thing. And I know there are a lot of people who go through music school and don't look back and wish they could go back and do it again, or, continue on and get their master's and their doctorate. And, but it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of, at times can be very tedious work, and it's definitely not for everybody. And obviously there are a lot of people who would do really well, but either can't or, can't afford to, don't want to, whatever. But it ultimately, I think, has set me up in a way that has made for some very positive changes, and also allowed me to kind of reflect on my own personality traits in positive ways that I definitely wouldn't have gotten to. And yeah, been good. To sort of continue on and maybe give a little bit of a epilogue here. On the other side now, I'm teaching I've kind of wiggled my way into a few different schools in the area. One that I'm working at basically weekly, and I get to work with the kids, and they are incredible. They're super fun to work with. Very good as well. In some ways, I mean, it's a bigger area, obviously, so there are more people to choose from. But in some ways, I mean, they're some of the best, percussionists, or just overall, obviously the other percussionists I went to school with were a little better. But just for example, like the drum line at one of the schools that I'm working with already sounds way better than than our drumline in college ever did. Because it was kind of a small school, you didn't get really your pick of the litter, but it's just been super fulfilling and super rewarding. But I do also know that a lot of that came down to luck, and my very good friend Kevin, kind of set me up with a lot of opportunities out here. And if things hadn't gone that way, I don't think, well, maybe I would continue clawing my way up, but I don't know how long I would have continued just kind of trying to make an opportunity for myself, because a lot of it is just that you're kind of cold calling people and trying to wiggle your way in and hope that an opportunity arises. So that was also very fortunate, and I'm very thankful to have kind of had things set up for when I moved out here. If not perfectly last year, I at least kind of had made the connections, and then once everything with quarantine ended, I was able to do that in a more sort of meaningful capacity. The rest of the time that I'm working, I'm basically working with my private students. I, of course, want to get more private students. Always want to get more private students. But again, with quarantine and things starting to trending downward again, it's a little tough to kind of get that up and going. But ultimately, I'm very excited for kind of what's to come, and I can at least say that I make the vast majority of my earnings just by doing music. So that's really nice. Let me get my cat. So that really basically sums up pretty much everything I kind of wanted to say on this topic. But obviously I'd love to kind of open up a discourse and get some communication rolling in the comments down below, guys. So please do, if you have any thoughts or questions. I'm usually pretty good about responding to questions, especially on a smaller video, like I'm assuming this is going to be. So yeah, if you do have any questions, any thoughts, I would love to kind of get, or, even kind of some community things. So if there are, multiple people who want to talk to one another and either share experiences or ask questions, answer questions, pose some thoughts, whatever, I think this would be a really good place to do it. So as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. And I am very excited for the next one of these types of videos. This was a lot of fun to make. So thank you, and I'll see you on the flippy side. Blah, 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 blah.